Hello everyone, I'm back. Sorry for a big delay, I had a lot of work, but I'm here with a new modeling series. In this one, I will be modeling a spoon in Autodesk Alias, as you already guessed. And as we're looking at the final result, I must mention that pattern you see on a handle is out of the scope of this lesson, as it was made outside of Alias. It was designed parametrically in Grasshopper and then brought back. I will show you the process, but briefly, as there is a lot to cover and has nothing to do with Alias. And if you're interested in patterns, let me know in the comments, and I will consider a new series about parametric design and programming. Anyhow, I will split this series on a few lessons, and in this one we will do all the prep work, bring our sketches in, calibrate them, set the tolerances, etc. If you want to follow along, there is a link in the description on my blank file with the proper tolerances and sketches. And without further ado, let's start. So I will open up this blank file. Once again, in the description, you can download that, and it already has the proper tolerances. They're pretty tight because we're doing a pretty small object, but we want it to be really accurate. So now, first things we need to do after we set up the tolerances, and as I said, they're already set up, we need to bring image references, our sketches. And in the older versions of Alias, we have a few different ways of doing that. In the recent versions of Alias, in the current versions of Alias, we have Canvas Lister as the only option. So the Canvas Lister lives under the Windows tab, Windows Canvas Lister, this one. So this is how it looks like. And what you need to do is you need to click on add a new canvas and select an image. Now, before we do so, I would like to rotate my camera because the Canvas Lister is camera sensitive. So the image will be placed based on the camera position and orientation. So I would like to look straight up on XY plane in orthogonal mode so that I don't need to realign it manually. So to do so, I will switch the camera to the top view and perspective to orthogonal, like this. And then I'll go and click to add a new canvas. So here I have two actually identical sketches. The only difference is their aspect ratio. So SQR, I believe it's quite obvious, is that the sketch is fit into the square, means that the size is has a 1-to-1 ratio, and the rect, this one, is just trimmed as is. So I'll start with this one, and there is a few differences and nuances in Alias and in Canvas Lister in terms of how to operate with them. So I use the squared one and click open. Once again, link in the description for the sketches. So I have my sketches, and looking at the grid, and mine is 100 millimeters, it's definitely way too big for the model which I need to create, and the actual dimensions are very important at this stage. So my spoon is supposed to have a length of 135 millimeters or 13.5 centimeters. And this is important, which means that my sketch is supposed to be calibrated to the same length, meaning that the length of the spoon is supposed to be 135 millimeters. Now, right now it's way too big. And what I need to do is I need to scale it down. And to do that, first of all, I need to see what's in its information window, what information window tells me about its size. So I will use the object select tool to select the canvas. It selects just with the standard object select tool, and in the information window, Windows information window, here it is, under the transform info, we have all the parameters for our transformation applied to this image. And here we are looking at the scale. You're going to see that the scale is way too big, 49.1. Now, I don't know the actual length and width and height of the rectangle, but I'm going to see, just based on the size of the grid and the values in the scale, that's just way too big. Now, first of all, what I want to do, no matter how big or small it is I will normalize that or unitize that. It's the term for, the vector math, but it actually serves the purpose here really well, I assume, because what I need to do is I need to bring the scale down to 1. Now, the scale is just a standard multiplier, which you're probably familiar from so many different other tools. And it's a very, very handy way to scale things without even figuring out what is its actual width and height. So what I'm going to do is I will switch this to 1. Both of them, the width and height. Remember, the aspect ratio is 1:1, so we don't need to bother about anything else. We just switch it back. Set it to 1. And right now, I believe it's obvious that it's just now too small. But this is not an issue. First of all, I will use my transform tool. It's under the palettes transform. Here it is. It basically calls a gizmo for me. And what I'm going to do is I will hold Alt and click to center my my sketch here. And now it's in the center, but it's too small. We need to make it bigger to properly calculate that. And this is really good that now we have a scale of 1. This is perfect. So I will push it up like this, and I will measure the distance of the spoon now. So I'll just, create the CV curve, just a standard CV curve. I will use extend command, click on the one side, then hold shift, click on the other side. So now I can extend it both sides at the same time because my spoon is centered. And then I will just scale it to the current size of an image, or the current size of my spoon. And well, I believe this, this is the, just an image, so it has tessellation, it's not perfect. This is fine. We don't need to be absolutely accurate in terms of sketch. It's just supposed to be roughly the same size. And when I say roughly, I mean pretty with the pretty tight tolerance, but not like into the Planck length. So I believe this is good enough, and I need to figure out what its distance. I will use the distance locator. Use the distance, hold Ctrl Alt and snapping to the sides, and this is its current width, 16.4724. Now this is way too small. Remember, we need 135 millimeters. And now what we need to do is use some arithmetics. So I will open up my trusty calculator, and I will divide 135 by 16.4724. So this is the basically the multiplier which we need to use to expand our sketch so it will be the proper size, right? And if you remember, we in our I just copied this value. So in the information we do, the scale is 1. And that's why it's very important. So now whatever the size is, it is the size of 1. So whatever multiplier I can apply, I will apply, and it will work. So this is the scale, and the scale, you see the same one because it is a squared image. And here we go. Now let me just delete this, all the guide, realign that. Let me push it up a little bit like this. And then I will use my line like that. Select my line. In the line attribute, I will type 135. This is the actual size which we'll be using. It will be my guide. I will center the pivot, snap it to the center. And as you can see, yeah, this is, we are really, really close. This is exactly, the sketch is calibrated now. It may be a little bit off here or a little bit off there, just on a tiny fraction or whatever, but it's not really a big deal. So this is the properly calibrated sketch. Cool. Now, what we need to do is we need to bring additional guides to that, something we really want to have. So first of all, I will create a line, additional one. I will center the pivot, snap it here, put it into the right side, and then I will use an offset command because this leap, this one where the now once again I'm calculating based on the anti-aliasing, so the image starts here, not here, and I need offset for the leap, so for this slab, and it will be 0.43 millimeters. So click on the, I'm using an offset command on the view, and I will type the value 0.43. Yeah, okay, cool. And then I will flip it on the other side as well, delete the history, turn off my controls. And basically this is my guides for XY plane, but I need the same for the other view. So I will just make another line here. I'm using the CV curve tool. Let's put it right there, flip it. I'm using, for the flipping, I'm using the mirror command. Once again, mine is in the marquee menu. So duplicate, just Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, select this one and flip. Okay. So let me click here, temporarily turn the visibility off. Let me actually kind of hide it for now. And this is my guides. I will use all of them, create the new layer, assign it here, and I will type guides. And I will click on this icon to set it as a reference. So now this is the reference for my dimensions. So you can think about that as a bounding box. Perfect. Now let me bring everything back, turn that on, and turn the grid on. So now I need to copy this sketch and rotate it 90 degrees because a part of the top view I have a side profile as well. So Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, click rotate 90 degrees. And yeah, that's basically it. So now it's already calibrated in terms of size. So the only thing I really need to do is I need just to kind of align it closer to the ground. I don't need to be spot on, just, you know, roughly somewhere here. Okay. Now what I love to do is to move that a little bit away from the, 0, 0, 0 position. So it will not be in my way when I will create lines and curves and stuff. So I just put it a little bit out. All right, and just the final nuance is I will change the opacity here just using the sliders like that. So now I will take both of these images and I'll create the new layer and I'll call it, reference, and just assign it, right click, assign, and here they are. All right, so basically we all set. We have our construction options, we have our calibrated sketches, we have our guidelines. Now, before I end this lesson, I would like to show you how to deal with non-squared sketches. So let me turn this off for now. Now, you don't really need to follow me on this one. It just to visualize how to deal with the rectangular one. Because here is actually what we need. So I will do the same. I will go to the top view, and in the canvas lister, I will click on the add another one, and I will use this one now. So the trimmed version, and click open. Now, I will do the same stuff, put it here in center, but I can't scale it just uniformly, because if I'll scale this to 1 and this to 1, I will change the aspect ratio, right? So before I do anything, I need to calculate the aspect ratio, so relationship between the length and the width of the image. So once again, calculator, go into the calculator. Let's just put it aside here and figure out what is the size. So I will divide x on y. Now, there is just a second monitor when I use the calculator. So this is the first value and this is the second value. So 1 divided by another one, and here is the result. So this is the aspect ratio between the sides, and I will just save it somewhere. So I will just open up my notepad, right, on Windows, and just throw this information there. Right, so now I have it. What I'm gonna do next is I will unitize the scale again, as we did with the rectangular version. So I will switch this to 1, and this one, I don't know, let's say like 0.5. It's temporary. This is not the proper size. Maybe it is not like this, you know. I don't know which one of that right now, and I don't need to bother at this point, because now what's important is that we have our x with a multiplier of 1, and now we can repeat the same steps as we did for the squared version. So push it somewhere here. Let's create our line, extend basically the same things as we did before. Put it in somewhere here. Let me just sure. Yeah, okay. Let's measure the distance. So this is the distance, 16.473. Then I'll do the same stuff. Our trusted calculator. Let's divide 135 by 16.473. Here is the values. This is the multiplier, but this is the multiplier only for the x direction, not for the y. So I will copy that. Come on. No, everything. Oh my God, everything. Come on. Okay, like this. So I will select my sketch, and in the scale, I will get the number right there. So now it is 8.1952. It rounds the number to the fifth digit. And now, as you're going to see, we have a really long and distorted image. Now, its length is accurate. The height is not. How we calculate the height? Well, we already have the aspect ratio. And if you remember, it was 2.14 and so on and so forth. So I'll just copy that value. I will go in, copy the scale. First of all, I'll copy the scale. Go to the trusty calculator yet again. Here it is. And oh, it's actually the same value. So let me just do it like this. And I will divide by my aspect ratio. My aspect ratio, here is my aspect ratio. Bam. Select this stuff, and that will be my height. And then we basically get back to the original image as it was. That's why we really need the aspect ratio, and that's why it's important and beneficial when you have a squared image, because it's all one-to-one. So here it is, and now we're gonna delete this one, use the standard line, and change that to 135. Here we go, and center, snap, and as you're gonna see, this is the calibrated sketch. So what I want to say about all of that is that when you have an image which doesn't really fit into the square, because of the fact that we don't have an option to apply transformations for whatever scale we have, like, if you go to Blender or you are still in Alias, we have this tool called Zero Transforms. Zero Transforms is basically unitize whatever scale you have to one. And you may ask, well, why we did all of that then manually? Well, because it doesn't work for canvases. So for whatever reason, in Alias, when you operate with the canvases, the zero transforms will not work. At least at the version of 2026, 2025, 2024, and all the earlier ones. There is so many people mention that in the forums, and developers still never fixed that. So we out of zero transforms, and that's why we kind of need to do it manually. But when you have a square, when the width is equal to the height in terms of the scale 1-to-1, always it's much easier. And when you have the rectangular image, you need to calculate the aspect ratio yourself and then plug it in and do all of these arithmetic shenanigans just to calibrate your sketch. But now you know how it works. It works exactly like this. So you can use squared images, you can use any other aspect ratio. I suggest you just to, when you draw your sketch, because this sketch I made in Photoshop, it's very easy for me just to make it squared, right? Export it as a squared image, no problem. So it's just much easier because you save yourself some time. But this is how you work with the canvases. And now I can bring my canvases back. Here they are. And that basically will be our base for the next lesson. And in the next lesson, we actually will start modeling. We will put our first curves. We will define what kind of curves we need to use. Is it a blend curves? Is it a multi-span curves? Is it the single span curves? Which how we will build the curve network, where we start, where we'll end, and a lot of other really cool and important things. But it will be in the next one. So until then, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.